Hello, my name is Kory Stuessel,
And I am Manuel Montouliu.
and we'll be presenting on boosting FDA presence overseas to improve medication safety.
In 2021, we noticed how many pharmacies and medical settings were experiencing medication shortages. When we started looking into the root causes of these shortages, we noticed that these shortages during the COVID season were mainly due to supply chain issues. But there were recurring shortages dating back over a decade. A large number of these originated with foreign manufacturers in places where the FDA had trouble inspecting facilities and were preceded by recalls for contaminated medication. In this presentation, we will discuss the issue at hand, give examples of its occurrence, how shortages affect U.S. patients, and some possible solutions. We will also be discussing what pharmacists can do to make a difference.
So as you can see here, in 2021, almost 3/4 of all active pharmaceutical ingredients and about half of all drug products were made overseas. While this has made medications cheaper for the US and many other parts of the world, there have been some documented shortcomings as well. Most notably, the FDA has had difficulty keeping up with foreign inspections. As you can see, in 2010, 64% of all foreign drug plants were never inspected. In 2015, 33% of all foreign drug plants were never inspected. In 2019, 16% of all foreign drug plants were never inspected. So while it was starting to trend in the right direction, unfortunately in 2021, only 3 plants were inspected. This is most notably due to COVID travel restrictions preventing FDA auditors from being able to inspect foreign drug makers. So what's the big deal with foreign drug plants not being inspected? FDA inspections are necessary to ensure quality drug materials and products are being sent to U.S. consumers. There have been several documented instances throughout the years where drug makers were caught slipping. For instance, in 2004, Ranbaxy failed to conduct proper testings of their facilities, and they openly encouraged and celebrated fraud. In 2008, there was intentional contamination of heparin by manufacturers in China. This led to several anaphylactoid reactions in the United States and over 100 deaths. In 2015, 46 Indian drug manufacturing facilities were barred from shipping drugs into the United States. In 2018, a Chinese pharmaceutical manufacturer emitted results that showed their product has failed to meet U.S. standards. Additionally, in 2018, thousands of foreign-made blood pressure, diabetes, and acid reflux medications were recalled. And then finally, in 2019, the FDA sent a warning letter to Mylan because they failed to properly clean equipment to prevent cross-contamination. This was after they had drug recalls in 2018 for a similar problem.
These shortcomings have directly affected U.S. patients. Quality assurance concerns have directly led to inferior products reaching the U.S. markets, resulting in an increased number of recalls. Drug recalls are becoming an ever more common occurrence. These recalls have unfortunately led to an increased shortage of life-saving medications. Furthermore, the recalls and shortages have led to diminishing trust in U.S. pharmaceutical companies and government agencies responsible for overseeing them. And finally, and unfortunately, the sickest patients are usually the ones subjected to poor quality drugs that are not just ineffective, but are also worsening their health conditions. And right here, to quote the 2014 Drug Controller General of India, Dr. G.N. Singh, he says, "If I have to follow U.S. standards and inspecting facilities supplying to the Indian market, we will have to shut down those facilities." So, while most overseas companies are fully capable of properly manufacturing medications, they might have a harder time adhering to specific FDA standards and regulations, especially without direct oversight from regulatory agencies like the FDA. So what are some possible solutions? Well, the FDA could probably use some more FDA offices abroad in these countries manufacturing drugs. They could have permanent FDA translators working for them. The FDA could institute an inspection catch-up program to make up for missed inspections. They could have unannounced overseas inspections and audits. The FDA could also share the inspection burden with other agencies like the European Medicines Agency, and they could probably require the facilities to install video cameras to do online inspections, essentially. So just to wrap up, if you scan one of these QR codes here, you'll be sent to a document that has a list of resources from the FDA, the ASHP, and the Yale New Haven Health Center. The document contains helpful links for identifying drug shortages, learning about recalled medications, and resources to help prepare hospitals and community pharmacies for operating in a world where drug recalls and shortages are ever more common.
We want to take some time here to demonstrate available resources regarding drug shortages. These resources are all readily available to pharmacists. We also want to go over some do's and don'ts of dealing with these shortages. If you scan our QR code demonstrated in our presentation, you will find links to the FDA and ASHP drug shortage lists. Within each posted bulletin is a more detailed breakdown as to why the shortage is occurring, which suppliers are facing issues, what issues they are facing, and the estimated time for them to be resolved. Frequently checking these databases can help your institution plan for the future. Additionally, the FDA has an application available for both Apple and Android phones that can be used to check shortages and report suspected shortages for further investigation. Now, onto some do's and don'ts. When planning for shortages, many people think it is safe to stockpile. Unfortunately, drugs have an expiration date and can expire before there is a need to use them. This could create unnecessary costs to your institution and waste valuable medication. Furthermore, stockpiling on a large scale increases demand artificially, which can exacerbate a shortage. Instead, the ASHP recommends setting up a drug product shortage team and a resource allocation committee. The drug shortage team can develop logistical protocols in the case of a drug shortage, and the resource allocation committee can oversee allocation of scarce resources and identify available alternatives to use in the case of medications becoming scarce. To further learn about these plans, feel free to follow our resources page to the ASHP guidelines or the Yale New Haven Health's adaptations of the ASHP guidelines.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed our presentation.